Hey YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are going to be doing a get ready with me because it's been a while since I've done one and I have some stuff I'd like to get off of my chest. In this video we're going to be talking about tokenism and what it's like being a token black. Probably not doing this right, but I actually use Fenty's primer to prime most of my face and not just my eyes because who got time and money to go out and buy 2 primers? These things are the same thing. So anyways, let's get into it. Basically, I have always been one of the only black people. I grew up in a suburb of Connecticut, and although my suburb was relatively diverse, I always made certain choices that unintentionally made me the only black person in the room. For example, taking all AP and honors classes. Wasn't supposed to be, but I was always one of 2 maximum. I think there was 3 of us at one point in an AP class. And so I'm really used to being the only black voice in a space and like having to navigate those dynamics. And I don't know, it was pretty annoying in high school. And now that I'm growing up and I'm entering like a corporate career and other experiences, it's getting even more annoying. Basically, what happens when you're the only black person in the room is there's just too much expectations and too much stress on that position, honestly. Because let me give you guys a sum up of my year and these past years of experiences as being the only black person in the room. I'm talking to you guys about all this stuff as I get myself ready to go to work, and the reason I'm getting myself ready to go to work in such a specific way today is because after work, sorry for all the sounds and stuff, but I'm really doing this. This video wasn't planned or anything. This video wasn't planned or anything, it's really ad hoc, and so I'm not in like the proper setting of filming, whatever. So if you hear sounds, and if this video isn't as high quality as you're used to, I'm sorry. But anyways, as I was saying, the reason that I'm getting this made up and ready for work today is because after work I'm going to a party of a company that didn't invite me, which is ironic because it's not like they didn't know that I existed. This company also invited me to other events under their name that were specifically catered towards a diverse audience. For example, the launching of a new foundation line or the launching of a new diverse beauty brand. They invited me to those things, but this general party, no. And it would be one thing if they didn't know who I was, because they definitely do. I might not speak Italian, but I am one of the girls with the most subscribers to my channel in Italy. 70% of my audience, 60 to 70% of my audience is Italian. So I'm a pretty big Italian YouTuber, and by now, Italian companies and Italy, they know I exist. I was even in the freaking newspaper here. So anyways, they didn't invite me, but I'm going anyways because I have friends and my friends got me on the list. But the whole situation just really got me to thinking again about, wow, what do I have to do to become valid in this sector, in this field? Like, I'm almost at 300,000 subscribers. I don't know. Why is it that I'm still not given the kind of recognition and respect that other girls get with much less than what I have? These are all rhetorical questions. The answer to these questions are neither here nor there. But this situation just got me to thinking about that and my time as being one of the few black people in a space over the years. So my first experience here, really, well, not even really, because even at university I was still like, you know, one of the one and only blacks. But I guess, no, the situation that, the events that changed me the most would have to come from the internship that I did earlier on in this year. I was working at one of the biggest fashion companies in the world for 6 months. And also there, even in that company, which is one of the biggest fashion companies in the world, I was one of the only black people. How many black people worked there that weren't as, you know, securities and receptionists? 30. Honestly, 2.5 plus me, the intern. Top fashion company in the HQ, in the headquarters, there were 2.5 black people, and maybe there were more Asians. I would say there were maybe like, I don't know, 5 Asians in the company. And you know, it's crazy because when I first started, it was better than I expected. I was like, holy shit, I wasn't expecting any black people to be here. I wasn't expecting any minorities to be here, so that's one thing. Anyways, and just a little aside, this isn't like a negative thing or anything, it's just a thing, but I've noticed that minorities in Italy, there's not this big us versus them mentality the way there is in America. Minorities in Italy will think like the vast majority of Italians on certain topics like, I don't know, transgenderism and gender being a spectrum. Let's just say that this idea hasn't really made it to Italy yet. It's still seen as very, 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 very extreme. And in the States where you would have, you know, minorities of any type, not just like gender non-binary minorities that will still support the cause and still tend to be on that supporting side, you'll find that here in Italy, even if they're a minority, they'll still think that thing is very extreme and kind of like exaggerated, you know? I guess what I'm trying to say is there's not a lot of, just because you're a minority in the States and you think a certain way, don't expect to come to Italy and think that minorities will always have your back and will always think the same way as you. They might think, just like the next white person, that you're exaggerating. Ecco. And I mean, like I said, this isn't necessarily a bad thing because I think it shows that Italian society is a lot less splintered and is a lot less divided than the American one, but it's a thing. So back to my story, I was working in this top fashion company here in Milan, in the world, and I wasn't the only minority. There was also an Asian girl, but she was Italian, so that's kind of like my preface. Like, I don't really see her that much as a minority, and oftentimes when there would be like discussions within my group in the work, within the team, it's not like she had much to say about the minority situation, or in times when she did, it's not like we always agreed, which, like I said, fine. In addition to her, other minority, most of the people working near me were also gay. Pretty much all of the men at this company were gay, surprise, surprise. And so in America, we would consider that another minority that would really be in solidarity with, you know, what we feel are minority issues. And on top of that, like, my immediate superior was also gay, minority, and like a really amazing guy. I mean, he was light years ahead in terms of thinking, in terms of seeing things with respect to like his colleagues. And from what I saw, at the end of the day, this is a male white executive. And if I think of male white executives that I've come across in life, whether it be university or working or whatever, he was really, really like ahead in terms of thinking and a really great guy. Now, despite that, but despite being surrounded by great people, minorities, and being in a relatively diverse environment at a top company in Italy, I still felt insanely uncomfortable in voicing my opinions and also just seeing certain things, seeing certain dynamics play out. There was this one article written in The Cut recently which talked about being black in fashion, and you guys should read that because that was basically the story of my life. Just to give you guys a few examples, you know that I'm very outspoken, I say it like it is, and I've always been that way, especially here on YouTube. And so when I first entered this this internship, I was the same way. Actually, I was even more so because it was like now things that I felt and I thought from the outside were being confirmed by things that I saw every day on the inside. Now when I said the fashion industry isn't diverse, it's not because I read it in an article, but it's because I actually work here and I see it. So what I would do is I would still talk about stuff on my social media just like I always had. And if I talked about something in fashion, hell yeah, I said I know from my experience, because it's the truth. I do know from my experience right now working here what you guys are doing. And let me tell you guys, these people, they came one day and they took me to a little room and they basically told me to stop. They basically told me that I can't be doing that, that that's the kind of thing that will get me fired, and stop. And the guiding lesson of that day was that you have to work from the inside to change things. And I will say, like I said, my manager there, amazing guy, and light years ahead for, you know, white male executive. And he had told me that, okay, that particular issue that day was the fact that I thought they weren't working with enough black influencers, because they don't. They work with about one black influencer. This is top fashion company X. And so my my long Instagram rant was like the fact that there are so many valid black creatives. Here's one, here's two, here's three, here's four. Why are none of them being used? So he said, so if that was my issue, why didn't I come up with a report on black influencers that could fit the brand and propose them to him? So he did give me like the opportunity to, you know, do something proactive and productive. So thank you for that. And I did that. And of course, the first time I handed in my suggestions, most of them weren't on brand. They didn't fit the brand. And so I had to come up with another one. And in the end, it was like a list of a good 10 to 20 black influencer, male and female, European influencers that could one day work with this brand. And I don't know if they, the cynical in me says that they just did that to make me feel better, shut up, make themselves feel better and say, you know, we did something, but in practice, will they ever actually work with these people? I don't know. But the hopeful in me is saying they gave me a chance to change something, and I hope that one day that little report that I made as an intern will actually lead to them working with other black influencers, you know? So there was that. Then I feel like that happened, I can't remember if that happened before or after the fashion show. The fashion show this year was controversial, and you know, fashion companies are always getting like dragged for cultural appropriation and called out for this, that, and the third, but I can't tell you guys how awkward it is being the only like minority non-Italian in the room when some of those when that thing happens, and then the conversations that follow. Because like I said, I'm in this diverse, forward-thinking, top company in Italy, and so you would think that all the conversations would be the same, but inside a company you have a microcosm of the world, and just like in the world, not everybody thinks the same way. Within this space, not everybody thought the same way. And I don't know, it was just kind of hard to see like people that were higher up than me or senior than me saying things like, well, how are we supposed to know that these things are offensive? Or, you know, well, everybody just gets offended for everything these days. Like, those aren't the things that you want to hear as somebody that's hoping for change in a sector or in an area. And so that was the experience. Those were the, like, just a few of many. I could write a book on all of the things that happened during that internship, but I'm not going to because they could sue me. I'm not even gonna say their name on the channel. If you know, you know where I worked. A lot of my personal friends know where I worked, but I'm not saying their name on this channel so I can get sued. Anyways, it was just really discouraging to see that that was the mindset. And if that's the mindset now, I don't know how it's gonna change. It was just frustrating because it's like, I can't speak out, because if I do, we'll say this. My boss, the cool one, said, well, instead of going and ranting on Instagram, why didn't you just come to me? But the truth is, it doesn't matter if you have a really cool boss, because at the end of the day, these huge companies are made into hierarchies. And between me and my cool boss, there are like 10 other people. And I mean, it's not explicitly said, but it's implicitly said that you don't just hit up the big boss and say, hey, these are my ideas. No, you have to like work your way up, build up a repertoire and move up the ranks. You can't, as an intern, just go and start calling all the shots, which is right. But my thing was like, I'm very impatient, and it's like, it's 2018 and I don't want to have to work at this company for 10, 20 years before my ideas are heard. I don't want to have to move up the ranks before I can actually have a say in changing things. And it's sad if that's the way that things are going to change. If in 2018 I'm the only Black person in this department, I'm the only young Black non-European that can bring something, I don't know, a different perspective to the table, and I have to wait 10, 20 years before my pareri are valid. I just didn't really, I don't know, I didn't really feel like doing it. I felt like, So that was that, and a bunch of other things happened in that internship that made me just feel like, I want to make it clear, at the end of the day, I don't dislike anybody there, and I left with a good relationship with everybody that I worked with. But just in general, the fashion industry in general and the atmosphere in general made me realize that that wasn't a job that I wanted to do. I didn't want to work in that sector, and it just wasn't for me. This is of course coupled with the fact that I said that I didn't want to wait 20 years to have my voice be heard. It was, I don't know, it was just eye-opening to see, like I said, what's it like. A lot of the times when something happens, like, I don't know, the H&M sweater thing, people are always like, well, where were the Black people? Why were no Black people consulted? This is because they don't hire any Black people. Well, that is part of the problem, but another part of the problem is that when you are one of the few Black people in there, what can you do? And it also becomes this choice of like, am I gonna fight for the cause or am I gonna preserve myself? Because let me tell you, when I was in high school, I was basically like a Black Panther. I was out there protesting, I was out there getting myself into all types of trouble, opening my big idealistic mouth every time to do it for the culture and to do it for the people. But the older you get, if you're given the opportunity to be an intern at one of the biggest fashion companies in the world, I repeat, are you really gonna mess that up by trying to shake the tables, shake the waters? And even though I tell you guys, I tried to shake the tables, I tried to shake the waters, and I met resistance in an environment that is supposedly really diverse and really forward-thinking. And I'm telling you, you can't look at this as like, okay, but it's an Italian company, it's this small Italian company. No, this is a global company with offices on every single continent. This is a global company that is marketing to the world, specifically America. And so like certain ways of thinking and certain ways of being, it just kind of threw me off a little bit. And it got to a certain point where I was just like really conflicted in the sense that, okay, but maybe I want to make a career out of this. I don't want to get anybody upset at me. I don't want to say the wrong thing. So maybe it's better to just be quiet. When you're the only Black person in the room, you have to choose between basically your people and yourself. And what happens is a lot of people choose themselves. To a certain extent, in the end, I kind of chose myself because after 3 months of going through it, I didn't like get up and say, you know what, I'm done with this, I don't like the way I'm being treated and I don't like your principles. I didn't do that. I sat my ass down and I finished almost because I found a job, but I went through another 3 months of it, and towards the end of it, it's not like what would happen is instead of being more and more resistant and keep going at them, I honestly just shut up. I just sat there, I just watched. I took notes of what I was seeing, not physical notes, but I was like making mental notes of what I was seeing, and all it really did was kind of like jade me into thinking that nothing's ever gonna change. Sorry, but I unfortunately gotta wrap this up before I am also late to work. But my point was that for a while I was jaded in thinking that things are never gonna change. And sometimes when things happen like this where, okay, makeup company A throws an event and they invite me to their ethnic things, but not the normal events. It's another like compounding factor of, are things ever really gonna change? Why am I forcing myself into this world? Why am I trying to even exist in this sphere? Sometimes, you know, that's how it feels being the only Black person in the room. And it's not just the companies, it's other Black people as well. Like I've already said, or maybe I didn't say it, but I don't know. Influencer-wise, I have a pretty big platform here in Italy. 70% of my audience is Italian, and I almost have 300,000 subscribers on YouTube alone, not counting my other socials. So I have a pretty big platform, and there is only one other Black female in Italy that has a platform similar to mine. Honestly, I would say that she's pretty much like the only other Black person on the internet that has a platform similar to mine. And we both live in the same city, and we both frequent the same circles, but do you guys ever wonder why you never see us together? Some people are paranoid and can't imagine there being more than another person, because they see this other person as a threat that's gonna take from them. They're gonna take their opportunities. And like I basically already said, it's not 100% the influencer that doesn't want to work with other minorities' fault, because if big fashion company X or replace fashion company with beauty company or any sector's company only works with one minority, it doesn't really help this phenomenon. It just inspires the influencer or other person in whatever sector it is to have this starvation mentality and see working with other minorities as a threat, because if they work with the other minorities and they let the brand see these other minorities, those other minorities are going to take their spot, because at the end of the day, brands only work with one of us, don't they? So it's a shit situation, and like I said, existing in this world makes it really hard, because it's just like, it just gets tiring. It just gets tiring to see this play out in every single version of my life, whether it be my professional career or this influencer career or school or whatever. It's just annoying. So we've managed to identify the problem. Now, how do we fix it? I believe now more than ever that we as minorities, especially we as Black people, need to do our own thing. We need to be making our own products. We need to be starting our own companies. We need to support these companies. And I don't say this as a way to like punish non-minority companies. I just say this as a way in the sense that we can't sit here and wait for these companies to change. We can't sit here and beg for these companies to change, because I can tell you from being in these companies, they're not going to change. They're not, and so we gotta do us. This mindset is 100% easier said than done, but it's what has to be done. That's it for my discussion, you guys. I have to run off to work. I hope that you like this video, and I'd love to know your opinions in the comments down below. Let's have a discussion, and I'll see you guys in my next one.